بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. In our last dars of Seerah, we covered the journey of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Sham. And at what age did we say he traveled to Sham? How old was he?
12.
Huh? 12. That's the first journey. The second?
17.
No. The second to Yemen, yes. To Yemen is 17. But to Sham, 25. When he was 25, he traveled to Sham. That was the second journey to Sham. And we covered many of the miracles which occurred during this journey. The cloud that was giving him shade, the tree which was were giving him shade, and the tree under which he sat, and a Christian monk observed and was astonished and asked Seerah about this young man. What's the name of that monk? And there are two monks. The first monk was Bahira when he was 12. The other Rahib, the other Christian monk. The second one who saw him in Sham. What was his name? The first one was Bahira. Bahira Rahib is the first one who saw him when he was 12. This one is Nastura Rahib. Zubair is his uncle, with whom he traveled to Yemen. Zubair ibn Abdul Muttalib and Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. Radiyallahu ta'ala anil jami'ah. When the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam returned from this journey, some of the scholars says 2 months and 25 days after his return from this journey, the Holy Prophet ﷺ would marry Sayyidatuna Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. How old is he now? 25. Sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. That is the most authentic version and the most famous version, and the majority of the scholars go by this. But the author of Nailul Arab said that some said he was 21, others said he was 30, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the famous version is that he was 25 when Sayyidatuna Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha was what age? 40. That is the famous narration that Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha was 40, but there is no authentic narration regarding this. فَلَمْ يَثْبُتْ فِيهِ حَدِيثٌ صَحِيحٌ. There is no authentic narration about the age of Sayyidatuna Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha when she married Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam. But the famous narration amongst the people of Syria is that she was 40, as mentioned by Ibn Sa'd in At-Tabaqat. There is a hadith there in which Hakim ibn Hizam is saying that the Holy Prophet ﷺ married Sayyidatuna Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha when she was 40, and the Prophet ﷺ was 25. Hakim said that Khadija was older than him, or 2 years older than him. He said that Khadija was 2 years older than him, not than the Prophet, but than Hakim himself. He said Khadija was 2 years older than me, because Khadija was born She said 15 years before the year of the elephant, and I was born 13 years before the year of elephant. What happened in the year of the elephant?
Well, they want to destroy the cow.
Yeah, yes, but what is, when we say the year of the elephant, that means the elephant occurred. But what is, when we say that I was born, I mean something else big happened that in the year of the elephant. What happened?
The year of the Prophet born.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the birth of the Holy Prophet. So he was born 50 days after the event of the elephant. Al-Hajj Mali Rahmatullah alayhi said, بِعَامِ الْفِيلِ يَوْمًا بَعْدَ النُّونِ النُّون الخمسون بعد 50 يوما. So he was born in the year of the elephant. So if Hakim said that Hakim was born 13 years before and Khadija 15 years before, that means the Prophet ﷺ was 25 and Khadija 40 and Hakim was maybe 37. That is the famous narration. But at the end of the hadith, it is said that Mouhamed ibn Umar al-Waqidi matruk. His hadith is matruk, meaning his hadith is abandoned, meaning the hadith itself is authentic, even though that version of Seerah, in Seerah is more famous. Because some people of the Seerah, they said it's not possible that Khadija was 40. You have other narrations which say that Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha was 28 when the Prophet ﷺ married her. It is also in Tabaqat of Ibn Sa'd rahmatullahi alayh, and but the hadith also is not an authentic hadith, but it is said in that hadith from Abu Salih, from Ibn Abbas, that Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha was 28 when the Prophet ﷺ married her, and her mahar, dowry, was 12 uqiyah. In some will be mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ offered her 20 bakra, 20 she camels. We're going to talk about that inshallah ta'ala. Now let's just stop at the age of both of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because 12 uqiyah was the mahar of Khadija and the mahar of all the wives of the Prophet ﷺ except one. And that one, not Maria. Another one. She was going to guess again. No. Because that one, it is not the Prophet ﷺ who gave the mahar. Someone else gave the mahar. And it was a king. Who among the Holy Prophet ﷺ's wives was given the mahar by the king al-Najashi. That was Ramla bint Abi Sufyan, because she was at that time in Ethiopia, and her husband changed and went away and left her, and she was doing other things. Then they got separated. What could she do? She couldn't go back to Mecca because her father is enemy number one of the Prophet, and she's a Muslim. So the Prophet had to marry her. And it is Najashi who did everything for him and for her. So her mahar was, we're going to talk more about the other Prophet's wife. So here we can see that the Khadija's age is not something that we can say this is more authentic. We can say this is more famous. But Imam Hakim in his Sanad from Abu Ishaq, he said that the Prophet, the Khadija was 28. 28. So when it is mentioned that the Prophet, when Khadija died, she was 65. Because if she is 40, that means when she dies, she was 65. Because the Prophet was 50 when Khadija died. But Hakim rahmatullah alayhi said, هذا قول شاذ. Because he said, فإن الذي عندي أنها لم تبلغ 60 سنة. He said, this is impossible. It's not authentic. Because what I know is that Khadija did not reach the age of 60 when she died. Imam al-Bayhaqi in Ad-Dalail said that he read that Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha was 65 when she passed, and she said, some said she was, he said, some said she was 50. So if she is 50 when she passed, that means she had the same age as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when she married the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is what Ibn Kathir wrote from Al-Bayhaqi, from Hakim, that the age of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he married Khadija was 25, and Khadija at that time she was 35, and some said 25. So both, some said 35, some said 25. What we know from this is that there is no certainty about her age when the Prophet ﷺ married her, but the most famous version is that she was 40. So 40 is mentioned, 28, 35, 25 as the Prophet ﷺ. The 25 is the most famous, but 21 and what? 21 and 30 are also mentioned for the Prophet ﷺ. If she was 40, then the fact that all the children of the Prophet ﷺ came from her itself is a miracle. Because when you are 40, you are close to stop giving birth. And but all the children of the Prophet ﷺ except Ibrahim came from Khadija. All of them except Ibrahim. Ibrahim came from Maria. Yes, you're right. But all of them, I said, all of them except Ibrahim comes from Khadija. The first one was Zainab, then Qasim, then Ruqayya, then Kulthum, then Fatima, then Abdullah. Abdullah is Tahir and Tayyib. Some kutub of Seerah, some books mention Tayyib and Tahir as two children, but it's a mistake. Tayyib is Tahir, because it is said Abdullah was the one who was born after the Prophet ﷺ's prophethood, meaning all of them were born before Prophet ﷺ became a prophet except for Abdullah from Khadija, and except for Ibrahim, because Ibrahim will be born in Medina. So we will talk more about how Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha approached the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when she knew that his family wanted him to get married after he returned from Sham. And then the scholars, they have differences who did the marriage, whether it was Khadija's father, her brother, or her uncle. The most famous is that it was her uncle who performed the marriage. Her father is Khuwaylid ibn Asad. Her uncle is Amr ibn Asad. Her brother is Amr ibn Khuwaylid. You better memorize the names, because I'm going to ask them again. And the one who really went to the Prophet ﷺ and make sure if the Prophet ﷺ was to be interested in Khadija was Nafisa, her friend. She's the one who, Khadija is a woman of respect, of dignity, of beauty, of wealth, of status. All Quraysh wanted to marry her, and she wanted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she couldn't go directly and talk to her. So she
is a dream with have a dream in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah, that is mentioned by the kutub of Seerah, but there's no authenticity about that. In reality, she was married before Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She was married. Scholars of Seerah say that she was married twice, and when her first husband died, she was married again. That's why you will hear many ahadith talking about how the Prophet ﷺ looked like. You will see Hind, the child of Khadija, who was with the Prophet ﷺ. Khadija was married with Atiq, and was married also with another person by the name of Hind, and they have a child by the name of Hind. So that how do you call it? That son of Khadija would be grow up under the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was so close to the Prophet that he could see how the Prophet looked like, because the senior Sahaba, they were very respectful to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so respectful that they could not tell you exactly how he looked like. You would look at him, the light would strike in you. But the youngsters are the ones who used to be able to describe him. And one of the best describers of how the Prophet was that son of Khadija. We don't want to make it very long, inshallah. Let's start there, and tomorrow we'll talk more about it. هذا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد بإذن الله. هذا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. بارك الله فيكم.